Introduction. The last step is important. Life is a long road. On this road, we have many dreams. We have many goals. A goal is something you want to do. Maybe you want to learn English. Maybe you want to get a good job. Maybe you want to run a race. These are all goals. Goals are good. They give us a reason to wake up in the morning. They make life interesting. But goals are not always easy. Sometimes, the road to our goal is very long. Sometimes, the road is very hard. We can feel tired. We can feel sad. We can feel like we want to stop. This feeling is normal. Everyone feels this way sometimes. You work hard. You study hard. You practice hard. Day after day, week after week. You get tired. You think, this is too difficult. I cannot do it. I want to stop now. This is a very important moment. When you feel this way, it is important to look at the road. Look forward. How far is the end? Sometimes, the end is very, very close. You have walked a long way. You have done so much work. The finish line is right there. You are only one step away. This is the most difficult step. It is also the most important step. When you are tired, it is easy to give up. But if you give up now, you lose everything. All your hard work is for nothing. Think about a mountain. You want to climb the mountain. You climb and climb. It is high. You're tired. Your legs hurt. You want to go back down. But you look up. The top of the mountain is very near. Just a little more. If you stop now, you will never see the view from the top. If you take one more step, and then another, you will be there. You will see the beautiful world from the top. This is a book of stories. The stories are about different people. They have different goals. But they all have one thing in common. They all get tired. They all want to stop. And they are all just one step away from their goal. Read these stories. Think about them. When you feel like giving up, remember these people. Remember their last step. Maybe their stories can help you take your last step. Maybe they can help you reach your goal. Because the last step is the step that matters most. Don't give up when you are only one step away. Chapter 1. Tom the Runner. Tom was a young boy. He was 10 years old. He had brown hair and blue eyes. Tom liked to play. He liked to play with his friends. He liked to play with his dog, Max. But there was one thing Tom loved to do. He loved to run. He was not the fastest runner. He was not the strongest runner. But he loved the feeling of running. He loved the wind on his face. He loved the sound of his feet on the ground. Running made him feel free. One day, his teacher at school made an announcement. The teacher's name was Mr. David. Mr. David was tall and had a kind smile. He said, "Hello, students. In 1 month, we will have our school's annual race. It is a big event. The race is 5 kilometers long. Everyone can join." 5 kilometers. That was a long way. Tom never ran 5 kilometers before. He usually ran in the park for a short time. He felt a little scared, but he also felt excited. A real race. He wanted to try. He wanted to see if he could do it. That day, he went home and told his mother. His mother's name was Maria. She had a warm smile, just like Tom's grandmother. "Mum, I want to run in the school race," Tom said. His mother smiled. "That is wonderful, Tom, but 5 kilometers is a long distance. You need to practice." "I will," Tom said. "I will practice every day." And he did. Every morning, before school, Tom woke up early. It was hard to wake up when it was still dark outside. He wanted to stay in his warm bed, but he thought about the race. He got up, put on his running shoes, and went outside. He started to run. At first, he could only run for 10 minutes. His legs felt heavy. His breathing was hard. He felt very tired. He would stop and walk home. He felt a little sad. "This is too hard," he thought. But the next day, he tried again. He ran for 12 minutes, a little longer. The day after that, he ran for 15 minutes. Day by day, he ran a little more. He ran in the morning. Sometimes, he ran in the evening with his father. His father's name was John. John was a strong man. He ran with Tom and said, "Good job, son. Keep going. You're getting stronger." The weeks passed. Tom was now able to run for 30 minutes without stopping. He could run around the big park 2 times. He felt good. He felt strong. He was ready for the race. Finally, the day of the race arrived. It was a sunny Saturday morning. The school field was full of people. There were students, teachers, and parents. Everyone was excited. Tom saw many of his friends. They were all wearing numbers on their shirts. Tom's number was 42. He felt very nervous. His stomach felt funny. There were so many good runners. He saw a boy named Sam. Sam was the fastest boy in the school. Tom thought, I can't win. Sam will win. His friend, a girl named Lily, came to him. Lily had bright red hair and always wore a cheerful smile. Are you nervous, Tom? She asked. Tom nodded. Yes, a little. Don't worry, Lily said. Just do your best. It's not about winning. It's about finishing. Mr. David blew a whistle. Runners, please come to the starting line. Tom took a deep breath. He stood at the starting line with all the other children. He looked for his parents in the crowd. He saw them. They were waving and smiling. He felt a little better. Ready, set, go, Mr. David shouted, and they were off. Everyone started running very fast. Tom started running too. He tried to run at his own pace, not too fast. He remembered his father's words, start slow, Tom. The race is long. He ran out of the school field and onto the street. A part of the town was closed for the race. There were people on the side of the road, cheering. Go, kids, go, they shouted. Tom ran and ran. The first kilometer was easy. He felt good. The second kilometer was okay too. He was running with a group of other children. But at the third kilometer, he started to feel tired. His legs started to hurt. The sun was hot. He was sweating a lot. He saw Sam, the fast runner. Sam was far ahead. Tom was not thinking about winning now. He was only thinking about running. At the fourth kilometer, Tom felt very, very tired. His body wanted to stop. His mind said, stop, Tom. Just stop and walk. It's okay. You did a good job. He saw some other children walking. They looked very tired too. It was very tempting to stop. He slowed down. His run became a slow jog. He thought, I can't do it. The finish line is too far. He felt sad. He felt disappointed in himself. He had practiced so hard. And now, he wanted to give up. He looked around. He felt alone. The other runners were ahead of him or behind him. Then, he heard a voice. Tom, go. Tom, go. He looked to the side of the road. It was his friend, Lily. She was jumping up and down. You're almost there. Tom, don't stop now. He looked ahead. He could see the school field. He could see the finish line. It was a red banner. It looked far away, but it was not as far as he thought. He could see it. He thought about Lily's words. You're almost there. He thought about all the mornings he woke up early. He thought about all the times he ran in the park. He had done so much. Should he stop now? When the end was so close, he looked at his feet. One more step, he told himself. Just take one more step. He lifted his right foot. It felt heavy, like a rock. He put it down. Then he lifted his left foot. He put it down. He was running again. It was very slow. It was very painful. But he was running. He focused on the finish line. He did not look at anything else. He just looked at the red banner. It was getting closer. Slowly, slowly, it was getting bigger. He could hear the crowd now. The sound was getting louder. He could hear Mr. David's voice on a microphone. And here comes another runner. It's Tom, number 42. Come on, Tom. You can do it. He felt a new energy. He ran a little faster. His heart was beating very fast. His lungs were burning. But he did not care. He was so close. He took the final steps. He crossed the red line. He had finished. He stopped and put his hands on his knees. He was breathing so hard. He felt like he was going to fall. But he was so happy. He was happier than he had ever been. His parents ran to him. His mother hugged him. You did it, Tom. We are so proud of you. His father patted him on the back. Great job, son. You didn't give up. Lily came with a cup of water. I told you you could do it, she said with a big smile. Tom drank the water. He was not the winner. Sam was the winner, of course. Tom came in number 25. But he did not care. He felt like a winner. Because he did not stop. When his body was tired, when his mind wanted to quit, he kept going. He took that one last step, and then another. He learned something very important that day. The hardest part is often just before the end. And that is the time you must not, ever, give up. Chapter 2, Maria the Baker. In a small, quiet town, there was a little shop. The shop had a bright blue door and big windows. From the windows, you could see delicious cakes, cookies, and breads. This was Maria's bakery, and the owner was a woman named Maria. Maria was not young and she was not old. She had kind eyes that crinkled when she smiled, and her hands were always covered in a light dusting of flour. She loved to bake. Baking was not just her job, It was her passion. She loved mixing flour, sugar, and eggs. She loved the smell of fresh bread coming out of the oven. Most of all, she loved seeing the happy faces of people who ate her creations. Every year, the town had a big summer festival. It was the most important day of the year. There was music, games, and a lot of food. People came from all the nearby towns to join the celebration. For this festival, there was a baking competition. The best baker in the town would win a blue ribbon in the respect of everyone. Maria had a dream. She wanted to win the competition, but she didn't just want to win. She wanted to create something truly special. She had an idea for a cake. It would not be a normal cake. It would be a giant cake, a cake with 5 levels. Each level would be a different flavor, and the whole cake would be decorated with beautiful flowers made of sugar. It would be a masterpiece. A month before the festival, Maria started to plan. She drew pictures of the cake. She decided on the flavors: chocolate for the bottom, then vanilla, then strawberry, then lemon, and a small almond cake for the top. She planned the decorations. It was a very complex cake. Her husband, an old fisherman named Carlos, looked at her drawings. "Maria, that is a very big cake. Are you sure you can do it?" he asked, his voice full of concern. "Yes," Maria said with a determined look. "I can do it. It will be the most beautiful cake the town has ever seen." The week of the festival, Maria's work began. She closed her bakery to customers. She needed all her time for the festival cake. She started with the bottom level, the chocolate cake. It was very big. She needed a special, large pan. She mixed the batter carefully. She put it in the oven. The whole bakery filled with the rich smell of chocolate. When it was done, the cake was perfect. It was moist and delicious. Maria was happy. The next day, she made the second level, the vanilla cake, and the day after, the strawberry cake. Each cake was perfect. She placed them carefully on a special table. Her dream was taking shape. It was a lot of work, but seeing the cakes together made her feel strong. 2 days before the festival, she made the 4th level, the lemon cake. This one was tricky. Lemon cake can be dry, but Maria was an expert. The cake was light and had a wonderful citrus smell. Now, it was the night before the festival. The bakery was quiet. The moon was shining through the big window. Maria had been working all day. She had made all the sugar flowers. There were red roses, yellow daisies, and small blue forget-me-nots. They were so delicate and beautiful. She looked at her work. The 4 cake levels were on the table. The flowers were ready. All she had to do was bake the final level, the small almond cake for the top, and then assemble everything. But Maria was exhausted. Her back ached from standing all day. Her arms were tired from mixing. Her eyes were heavy with sleep. She sat down on a small stool. She looked at the clock. It was already 10 o'clock at night. To bake the last cake and decorate the whole thing would take at least 4 more hours. It would be 2 o'clock in the morning. "I am too tired," she whispered to herself. "I can't do it. Maybe 4 levels is enough. It is still a very big cake. No one will know it was supposed to have 5 levels." The idea was very tempting. She could go to bed now. She could get a good night's sleep. She could finish the decorating in the morning. She stood up and walked towards the door to her small apartment behind the bakery. She put her hand on the doorknob. She was ready to give up on her original dream. It was just one small cake level. Did it really matter? She stopped. She turned around and looked at the 4 cakes on the table. They looked beautiful, but incomplete. She looked at her drawing, which was pinned to the wall. The drawing showed a magnificent, 5-level cake, reaching for the sky. That was her dream. Not a 4-level cake. She thought about the festival. She imagined the children's eyes wide with wonder when they saw the cake. She imagined the mayor giving her the blue ribbon. She imagined Carlos, her husband, looking at her with pride. All of this was so close. It was right there. She had worked for weeks. She had baked 4 perfect cakes. She had made dozens of beautiful sugar flowers. Everything was ready. The only thing standing between her and her dream was one small cake and a few hours of work. She was just one step away. "No," she said, her voice firm now. "I will not stop. I will not give up now." She turned away from the door and walked back to her workstation. She took a deep breath. She washed her hands. She took out a small bowl, flour, sugar, eggs, and the ground almonds. She started to work again. She moved slowly, but with purpose. She mixed the batter for the almond cake. She put it in the oven. While it was baking, She started to prepare the icing for the decorations. The smell of the almond cake filled the air. It was a sweet, comforting smell. It gave her energy. When the cake was done, it was golden brown and perfect. Now for the hard part, assembling the cake. She carefully placed the vanilla cake on top of the chocolate one, then the strawberry on the vanilla, then the lemon on the strawberry. It was getting tall. She used special supports to make sure it was stable. Finally, she placed the small almond cake on the very top. It was magnificent. Then, she started to decorate. She covered the cake in smooth, white icing. Then, one by one, she placed the sugar flowers on the cake. She created a cascade of flowers, flowing from the top to the bottom. She worked and worked. She forgot about being tired. She was focused only on her creation. The clock ticked past midnight, then past 1 a.m., then past 2 a.m. Finally, at almost 3 o'clock in the morning, she was finished. She stepped back and looked at her cake. It was more beautiful than her drawing. It was more beautiful than she had imagined. The 5 levels stood tall and proud. The sugar flowers looked real. It was a true masterpiece. Maria was so tired she could barely stand. But she was not sad. She was filled with a deep sense of pride and happiness. She had done it. She had not given up. When she was at her most tired, when she was ready to quit, she found the strength to take that final step. The next day, at the festival, her cake was the star of the show. Everyone was amazed. The children's eyes were indeed wide with wonder. The mayor gave her the first prize blue ribbon, and her husband, Carlos, looked at her with more love and pride than she had ever seen. Maria knew that she would always remember that night in her bakery, the night she learned that the moment you want to quit is often the moment right before you succeed. Chapter 3, Leo the Student. Leo was a student at a big city high school. He was 15 years old. He was a good student in most subjects. He liked history because it was full of stories. He liked English because he loved to read novels. But there was one subject that Leo did not like. That subject was science. For Leo, science was difficult. It was full of numbers, strange words, and complex ideas. His science teacher, Mrs. Anya, was a very smart woman, but Leo often felt lost in her class. He tried to listen, but the words often sounded like a foreign language. Photosynthesis, mitochondria, velocity, chemical reactions, these words made his head hurt. This year, the final exam for science was very important. It was 50% of his final grade. Leo wanted to go to a good university, so he needed a good grade in all his subjects, even science. The exam would cover the entire textbook. The textbook was very big and very heavy. It had 10 chapters. Each chapter was about a different topic. Leo knew he had to study very hard. So, he made a plan. I will study one chapter every 2 days, he told himself. That way, I will have time to review everything before the exam. He started with chapter 1, the basics of biology. It was not too bad. He read about cells in plants. He made notes. He felt okay. Then he studied chapter 2, the human body. This was more interesting. He learned about the heart and the brain. He continued like this, day after day. He would come home from school, eat a small snack, and then go to his room to study science. It was boring. His friends would call him, Leo, do you want to play football? They would ask. I can't, Leo would say with a sigh. I have to study science. He studied chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5. He was halfway through the book. He felt tired of science. He wanted to do something else. But he kept going. He thought about the exam and the good grades he needed. He studied chapter 6, chapter 7, and chapter 8. The topics were getting more difficult. Chemistry was full of strange symbols. Physics was full of difficult math problems. Leo spent hours and hours at his desk. His room was filled with notes and diagrams. Finally, he finished chapter 9. He closed the book and leaned back in his chair. He was so tired. His brain felt full. He had studied for weeks. He had read 9 long, difficult chapters. He looked at the book. There was only one chapter left. Chapter 10, Modern Physics and the Universe. He opened the chapter. He looked at the pages. They were full of text and complex diagrams about things like relativity and quantum mechanics. The words were even stranger than before. He read the first sentence. The theory of relativity describes the interaction of space and time. Leo groaned. What does that even mean? He said out loud to his empty room. He felt a wave of despair. He was so tired of studying. He had already studied 9 chapters. That was a lot. That was 90% of the book. Surely, that was enough. I can't do it, he thought. I can't read this chapter. It's too hard. And I am too tired. He closed the book with a loud thud. I will not study this chapter. I will just review the other 9 chapters. It will be fine. He felt a sense of relief. No more studying. He could finally relax. He could watch a movie or play a video game. He stood up and was about to leave his room. But then he stopped. He looked at the big science book on his desk. It looked like a big monster, and he had almost defeated it, but not completely. There was one small part left. He thought about his goal. He wanted a good grade. Not an okay grade, but a good grade. What if there were many questions from Chapter 10 on the exam? If he didn't study it, he would not be able to answer them. His grade would go down. All his hard work on the other 9 chapters would be for less. He was so close. He had come so far. He had spent weeks of his life with this book. To stop now, with only 1 chapter left, seemed wrong. It felt like running a marathon and stopping just before the finish line. It's the last one, he whispered to himself. It's the final push. He sat back down at his desk. He looked at the clock. It was late, but not too late. He took a deep breath. Okay. Leo, you can do this. He opened the book to chapter 10 again. He decided to try a different strategy. He would read it very, very slowly. He would not try to understand everything at once. He read the first paragraph. He read it 3 times. He took out a highlighter and highlighted the important words. He got his notebook and wrote down the definitions. He looked online for simple videos that explained the concepts. It was slow. It was difficult. His head still hurt, but he did not stop. He worked for 1 hour, then 2 hours. He was in a world of space, time, and atoms. Slowly, very slowly, he started to understand a little bit. It was like a locked door, and he was finding the key. The ideas were still big and strange, but they were not impossible. He finished the chapter just after midnight. He was completely exhausted, but he had done it. He had read all 10 chapters of the science book. He felt a huge sense of accomplishment. He had faced the most difficult part at the very end, and he had won. The next week was the exam. Leo walked into the classroom feeling nervous, but also prepared. He sat down and the teacher, Mrs. Anya, gave out the papers. Leo turned over the paper and started to read the questions. There were questions from all the chapters, and then he saw it. The last section of the exam. It was worth 20 points. The title of the section was Modern Physics. There were 5 big questions. All of them were about the topics in Chapter 10. Leo smiled. He picked up his pen and started to write. He knew the answers. He wrote about relativity. He wrote about atoms. He wrote about the universe. He could answer every question. When he walked out of the exam room, he felt amazing. He knew he had done well. A few weeks later, he got his results. He got an A in science. He was so happy and proud. He showed the result to his parents, and they were very proud of him too. Leo learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the final part of a task is the hardest. It's when you are most tired and want to quit, but that is exactly when you need to push a little more. Because that final step can make all the difference between an okay result and a great one. He never forgot the lesson of Chapter 10. Chapter 4, The Old Man in His Garden. Mr. Chen was an old man. He had lived in his small house for over 50 years. He had white hair, a kind, wrinkled face, and hands that showed a life of hard work. His wife had passed away a few years ago, and now he lived alone. His children were grown up and lived in the big city. They visited him on holidays, but most of the time, Mr. Chen was by himself. Behind his house, there was a piece of land. It was supposed to be a garden, but it was not a garden. It was a mess. It was full of tall, green weeds. The ground was hard and uneven, filled with stones and old roots. For years, Mr. Chen had ignored it. He was too busy or too tired to do anything about it. One spring morning, Mr. Chen was sitting by his window, drinking his tea. He looked out at the messy patch of land. He felt a little sad. He remembered when he and his wife first bought the house. They had a dream for that garden. They wanted to fill it with flowers of all colors, red roses, yellow sunflowers, and purple lavender. They wanted a small vegetable patch to grow their own tomatoes and cucumbers. And in the center of it all, his wife had wanted a small pond, a little circle of water with a few fish and maybe a water lily. They never built that garden. Life got in the way. They had children, they had jobs, and there was never enough time or money. Looking at the weeds, Mr. Chen made a decision. I am an old man, he thought, but I am not dead. I will build that garden. I will build it for my wife. I will build the garden of our dreams. He felt a new energy. The next day, he went to the store and bought some tools, a shovel, a rake, and some gardening gloves. He started the work. The first task was to clear the weeds. It was incredibly hard work. The weeds were tall and their roots were deep. He pulled and pulled, hour after hour, under the hot sun. His back ached. His hands got blisters, even with the gloves. Every day for a week, he worked on the weeds. At the end of each day, he was so tired he could barely cook his dinner. He would fall into bed and sleep like a stone. Some of his neighbors saw him working. "Mr. Chen, you should be careful," said one neighbor. "That is hard work for a man of your age." "I am fine," Mr. Chen would say with a smile, though he was not always sure he was. After a week, all the weeds were gone. The land was clear, but it was still full of rocks. So, he started the next task, removing the rocks. He used his shovel to dig them up. Some were small pebbles, but some were big, heavy stones. He had to use all his strength to move them. He put them all in a wheelbarrow and took them to the edge of his property. This work took another 2 weeks. His body was sore all over. Many times, he thought about giving up. He would sit on his back porch, look at the half-cleared land, and think, "This is impossible. I am too old for this." But then he would think of his wife's smile. He would remember their dream. And the next morning, he would be back in the garden, working. Finally, after a month of hard labor, the land was ready. It was a flat, clear piece of brown earth. He had cleared all the weeds and all the rocks. He felt very proud. He had already done so much. Now, it was time for the final, and most important, part of his dream, the pond. He had a picture in his mind, a small, round pond in the center of the garden. He took a rope and made a circle on the ground. This was where he would dig. He took his shovel and started to dig. He thought this would be easier than the rocks. He was wrong. The ground was hard and dry. For every shovel of dirt he removed, he had to put in a lot of effort. He dug for a whole day. At the end of the day, the hole was very small. It did not look like a pond at all. It looked like a little puddle. He dug the next day, and the next. The work was slow and frustrating. The sun was hot. His back, which was already sore, started to hurt even more. He was an old man. This was too much. After a week of digging, the hole was bigger, but still not deep enough for a pond. He sat down, completely exhausted. He looked at the hole. He looked at his tired, dirty hands. "I cannot do this," he said to the empty garden. "It is too much. I will not have a pond. A garden with just flowers is also beautiful. It is enough." He felt a deep sadness. He had worked so hard, but this final step was just too difficult. He decided he would stop. Tomorrow, he would just plant the flowers and forget about the pond. He had failed. He went inside, washed his hands, and sat in his favorite chair. He closed his eyes. He felt like a failure. But as he sat there, he thought about the whole process. He remembered the jungle of weeds. He remembered the heavy rocks. He had conquered them. He had done the impossible. The garden was already transformed. He was so close to the full dream. The pond was the heart of the garden. Without it, the garden would be nice, but it would not be their garden. He thought, "I have done 99% of the work. Will I give up on the last 1%? A new feeling grew inside him. It was not energy. It was determination. He would not be defeated by a hole in the ground. He stood up. He went back outside. The sun was starting to set. He picked up his shovel. "Just one more try," he told himself. Just for a little while. He put the shovel into the ground and pushed with his foot, and then, something happened. The ground felt different. It was softer. He pushed again. The shovel went in easily. He had broken through the hard layer of earth. Underneath, the soil was soft and moist. A jolt of excitement went through him. He started to dig again, but this time it was different. It was easy. The dirt came out in big, satisfying shovelfuls. He dug and dug. The hole got deeper and deeper. He was not tired anymore. He was filled with adrenaline. He worked until it was dark. When he finally stopped, the hole was deep and wide. It was perfect for a pond. He stood back, breathing heavily, but with a huge smile on his face. He had done it. He was at the very edge of giving up. He was ready to abandon his dream, but he decided to take one more step. And that one step changed everything. In the weeks that followed, Mr. Chen finished his garden. He put a special lining in the hole and filled it with water. He put some small fish in it. He planted roses and sunflowers and lavender all around it. He planted a small patch of tomatoes. The garden was beautiful. It was exactly like the dream he and his wife had all those years ago. Every morning, he would sit by his new pond, drink his tea, and feel a deep sense of peace and accomplishment. He had built it with his own 2 hands, and he had learned that he should never, ever give up, especially when you were just one shovel away from your goal. Chapter 5. Anna the Artist. Anna was a young woman who lived in a small apartment in a big city. Her apartment was not very big, but it had one very large window. This window was important because Anna was an artist. She was a painter. The large window gave her the light she needed to paint. Her apartment was also her studio. Canvases, which are the cloths painters use, were everywhere. Some were finished, showing bright cityscapes or quiet portraits. Others were blank, waiting for an idea. There were brushes in jars, tubes of paint in 100 different colors, and the faint, constant smell of oil and turpentine in the air. Anna loved to paint more than anything. When she was painting, she forgot about everything else. She forgot about the noise of the city. She forgot about paying her bills. She was in her own world of color and shape. For the past month, Anna had been working on one painting. It was her biggest painting yet. It was a picture of the sea, but it was not a calm, sunny sea. It was a stormy sea. She wanted to capture the power and the drama of the ocean during the storm. She had a clear vision for it in her head. A dark, angry sky full of purple and gray clouds. Huge, powerful waves, with white foam at the top, and in the middle of this chaos, there would be one small, lonely fishing boat. The boat was the most important part. It represented hope and courage in the middle of a storm. She worked on this painting every single day. She started with the sky. She mixed colors for hours to get the perfect shade of stormy gray. She used her brushes to create a feeling of wind and movement in the clouds. After a week, the sky was finished. It was dramatic and beautiful. She was very happy with it. Next, she started on the sea. This was even harder. She wanted the waves to look real, to look like they were moving. She used different shades of blue, green, and even black. She spent days just painting the foam on top of the waves, using a special thick white paint. The sea took 2 more weeks of work. It was powerful and frightening, just like she wanted. Now, the painting was almost finished. The huge canvas was filled with a stormy sky and the angry sea. It was a very powerful image. The only thing missing was the small boat, the final piece of the puzzle. Anna stood back and looked at her work. She had been looking at it for 3 weeks. She knew every brush stroke, and a terrible feeling started to grow inside her. She didn't like it. Something was wrong. She didn't know what it was, but the painting felt empty. It felt wrong. The colors looked strange to her now. The waves didn't look real anymore. They just looked like blue and white paint on the canvas. "It's not good," she said to her cat, a ginger cat named Marmalade. Marmalade just purred, not understanding. Anna felt a wave of disappointment wash over her. She had spent so much time on this. She had used so many expensive tubes of paint. She had believed in this painting. But now, she thought it was a failure. "I am not a good artist," she thought. "A real artist would know what is wrong. A real artist would fix it." She felt the desire to stop, to just stop. She wanted to take the canvas off its stand. She wanted to put it against the wall, facing the wall, so she didn't have to look at it anymore. She could start a new painting, a smaller one, an easier one. She felt very sad and frustrated. She had been so close to finishing. She was at the very last step, painting the boat, but now, she had no motivation. What was the point of painting the boat if the rest of the painting was bad? She sat on her stool and just stared at the canvas. An hour passed. She did not move. She felt completely stuck. Just then, her doorbell rang. It was her friend, David. David was a musician. He understood the life of an artist. "Hi Anna," he said, walking in. "I brought you some coffee." Whoa. He stopped when he saw the giant painting. "Anna, that is incredible." Anna didn't look at him. She just stared at the floor. "No, it's not. It's terrible. I'm going to abandon it." David walked closer to the painting. He looked at it carefully for a long time. "Abandon it? Are you crazy? This is the best thing you have ever painted. The sky is so powerful, and the sea. I feel like I can hear the waves." "You're just being nice," Anna said in a small voice. "No, I am not," David said seriously. "I am being honest. It's a masterpiece. It's almost finished, right? You just need to add the boat. What's the point? Anna said, her voice full of frustration. The boat won't fix it. It's just wrong. David put the coffee down and came to sit next to her. Anna, listen to me. Sometimes, when you work on something for a long time, you get too close to it. You can't see it clearly anymore. You only see the small problems. You need to step back. He paused. And sometimes, a painting is not complete until the very last piece is there. Maybe the boat is not just another detail. Maybe the boat is the key. Maybe the boat is what will make the sky and the sea make sense. He stood up. Don't give up now, Anna. You are one step away from finishing. Just one small boat. Try it. If you still hate it after you paint the boat, then you can abandon it. But first, you have to finish it. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to the painting. He gave her a small smile and left. Anna sat alone with her coffee and her painting. She thought about David's words. A painting is not complete until the very last piece is there. Was it possible? Was it possible that the feeling of wrongness was just because the painting was incomplete? It was a strange idea, but she was desperate. She looked at the empty space on the sea where the boat was supposed to be. It did feel like a hole in the painting. Okay, she said to herself. One last step. I will paint the boat. She took her smallest brushes. She mixed some brown and white paint. Her hands were shaking a little, but she started to paint the outline of the small fishing boat. She painted it being tossed by the giant waves. She worked carefully. She painted the small mast. She painted a tiny, torn sail. She added a small light on the boat, a little point of yellow in the middle of all the dark colors. It took her about an hour. When she was finished, she put her brush down. She was afraid to look. She took a deep breath, and then, she stepped back to look at the whole painting, and she gasped. It was perfect. David was right. The boat was the key. Suddenly, the whole painting came to life. The sky was not just dark anymore. It was a dramatic background for the boat's struggle. The sea was not just angry anymore. It was a powerful force that the small boat was bravely fighting. The small yellow light on the boat made the whole scene feel hopeful, not hopeless. The painting was not wrong at all. It was just waiting for its heart. It was waiting for the final step. Tears came to Anna's eyes. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief and joy. She had been so close to giving up. She had been so sure that her work was a failure. But she had listened to her friend. She had found the courage to take that one final, difficult step. The painting, The Storm, became her most famous work. It was sold to a gallery and admired by many people. But for Anna, its real value was not the money. It was the lesson it taught her. A lesson about art, and about life. The lesson that sometimes, you have to push through your doubt and fear and just complete the work. You have to take that final step. Because you never know. That one last step might be the one that turns a failure into a masterpiece. Conclusion. Your final step. We have read the stories of 5 different people. Tom, the young runner. Maria, the talented baker. Leo, the hard-working student. Mr. Chen, the old man with a dream for his garden. And Anna, the passionate artist. They are all different. They live in different places. They have different ages and different dreams. But their stories have a common thread. They all reached a point where they wanted to stop. Tom was running a long race. His legs hurt. His body was screaming at him to stop and walk. He was tired and believed the finish line was too far away. He was ready to give up on his goal of finishing the race. Maria was in her bakery, late at night. She was exhausted from days of work. Her dream of a 5-level cake was almost complete, but she was too tired to take the final step. She was ready to settle for something less than her dream. Leo was in his room, surrounded by books. He had studied for weeks for his difficult science exam. He had conquered 9 chapters, but the final chapter seemed too hard. His brain was tired. He was ready to quit and hope for the best. Mr. Chen was in his garden, under the hot sun. He was an old man, and his body ached. He had cleared the entire garden, but the final task, digging the pond, felt impossible. He was ready to give up on the most important part of his dream. Anna was in her studio, looking at her biggest painting. She had worked on it for a month, but at the very end, she'd lost faith. She thought her work was a failure. She was ready to abandon her masterpiece just before the final, crucial touch. All of them stood at a crossroads. One path was easy, the path of giving up. The other path was hard, the path of taking one more step. It is easy to stop. It is easy to say, I am too tired. or this is too hard, or it's not good enough. When you are exhausted and frustrated, the idea of quitting can feel like a sweet relief. But Tom, Maria, Leo, Mr. Chen, and Anna did not choose the easy path. They all found something inside themselves, a little bit of strength, a little bit of hope, a little bit of determination. They looked at their goal, they saw how far they had come, and they realized how close they were to the end. They were just one step away. And so, they took that step. Tom found the energy to run to the finish line. Maria found the strength to bake the last cake. Leo found the focus to study the last chapter. Mr. Chen found the will to dig that last bit of earth. And Anna found the courage to paint the last detail. That final step changed everything. It was the difference between quitting and succeeding. It was the difference between disappointment and pride. It was the difference between I almost did it and I did it. Life is full of these moments. Your life is full of these moments. Maybe your goal is not running a race or baking a cake. Maybe your goal is learning a new language. You study verbs and vocabulary. You feel like you are not making progress. You want to quit. But maybe you are just one step away from having your first real conversation. Maybe your goal is to finish a project at work. You have worked on it for months. It is difficult and there are many problems. You're tired. But maybe you are just one step away from a solution. Whatever your goal is, there will be times when you want to give up. In those moments, remember these stories. Remember that the point of maximum difficulty is often just before the point of success. The darkest hour is just before the dawn. Don't let your tiredness and your doubt make the decision for you. When you want to quit, stop for a moment. Take a deep breath. Look at how far you have come. And look at how close you are to the end. You're stronger than you think. You can do more than you believe. Find that last bit of energy. Take that one final, difficult, important step. You will be so glad you did. Don't give up. Not now. Not when you were only one step away.